What is this serious Craig and Nicole show about today? Or Nicole and Craig show, sorry. I always say his name first. I don't know why.
Yes.
It's ladies before gentlemen. That's what I always say.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the Nicole and Craig show?
So this is near and dear to us, I think. We've been dealing with this all week long.
Well, and let's be careful with that, too, since we might still be concurrently dealing with some of it. So, but I know what you guys are thinking. I always say that, but, you know, I think that's old now. I have no idea what you guys are thinking.
No.
But I know what this show's going to be about today.
I know. And I know we did this show not that long ago, but I kind of feel like it's just beating everybody up right now, man.
Yep. Not enough people watched it, apparently.
I'm saying, for real.
Buyer's remorse. It is intense right now.
And it is here to stay for at least a minute. So
I hope not.
God,
but
I know, but
we're going to give you 5 tips to think about to maybe mitigate it, to try to help you a little bit. You know, it's tough. I mean, there are some legitimate factors, and we're not talking about those. We're talking about, I'm not talking about when, you know, the buyer wants a undisclosed defect. Like, let's say the furnace does not work.
Yeah.
The buyer wants the furnace to either A, work or be replaced, and the seller says no. I'm not talking about that buyer's remorse. That's different. That's negotiating goes bad.
That's not buyer's remorse.
That's not buyer's remorse. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. Buyer's remorse. You know what it is. First of all, I don't have to explain it to you. You know what it is. So we're going to go to number 5. My number 5, my one tip, and I hear this from agents all the time, you know, telling buyers and stuff like that, like, don't worry, you know, we have a legal out if it doesn't appraise, or we have a legal out if this, or we have a legal. First of all, even saying the word legal is you giving legal advice, which as realtors, we are not allowed to give. So I don't ever want to hear anyone say legally this or legally that. You know, only a judge enforces a contract. I don't know if you ever get a letter from an attorney, but attorneys always write like legally this and this, you know. Again, they're negotiating from their side. You know, we're realtors. We're not attorneys. We're not trying to, you know, we should never say, wait for the next legal out that we have, or wait for this. You know, it's like you got to handle it right when buyer's remorse presents its ugly head. You got to deal with it right then and there. It's not something that goes away. It's not something that, hey, if we just put our head in the sand for another couple of weeks, the buyer will change their mind.
It's itself. It's fine. No, it doesn't work that way.
It rarely happens, and usually it just festers. And eventually they're going to turn on their agent.
Yep.
And they blame the agent. Yeah,
and you know, we get blamed for everything already anyway, so don't let that be another thing that we get blamed for.
Yeah. And this is another I'm going to my disclaimer for this whole show today is going to be talk to your managing broker about any of these things when they come up. Managing brokers, and I'll tell you what, I've been doing this since 2002 in Northwest Indiana. This is the most buyer's remorse I've ever seen. It's never been. So even brokers that maybe they weren't around for the recession or anything like that, there's still buyer's remorse now than I've ever seen in the history of our business. So I've never seen it this bad.
Yeah. And I think it's just pressure from all around with everything we have going on, whether it's political, societal, everything we have going on top of then now you're buying a home.
Yeah.
I think it's just making the pressure a lot worse for buyers in general.
Yeah. So be careful of the words you use. What are you telling your buyers that makes them think that they have a way to get out of an easy way to get out of their contract? You should not ever be doing that. I mean, and most of your managing brokers will always tell you the same thing, is if your buyer asks you to get out of a contract, realistically what you should do is email them and say you recommend they seek legal counsel before breaching a contract, or what you think might be considered breaching a contract. It's not a scare tactic to scare your buyer. It's real. If you ever had a buyer that got sued over their decision, trust me, it happens occasionally, and it is not pleasant. So it's one of those things, like, you know, it's our job not to give legal advice, but it's our job to, you know, help our buyer through the transaction. If a buyer wants out for any reason, that's not something that's already agreed upon in the contract, you know, you've got to talk to your managing broker. Don't try to just figure it out. Don't try to think you know everything. You know, that's how that's how the realtor gets named in a lawsuit, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we beat that one to death.
Oh, well, it's coming back. Don't worry about number 1. No, number 4. Go ahead, Hanson. What do you got?
Explain how earnest money works up front. 2 of the most important sections in a transaction in the purchase agreement is the earnest money section and the inspection section, right? If you are explaining how earnest money works up front, hey, you're submitting this, it's good faith money. The only way to get earnest money back is if both parties agree how it goes back. This is what it's for. This is what it does. This is how you can get it back, blah, blah, blah. You have to explain that entire section so that when it comes down to it and they have buyer's remorse, remember when we talked about the purchase agreement, you guys both have to agree on how it gets returned. If the seller says no and you say no, now you're at a standstill. This is what happens. Explain the 60-day clause. All that's in the purchase agreement right in the earnest money section. Please do that up front. It's a lot easier down the road when you have issues then.
Yeah, and realtors, again, you should never be saying phrases like, I'll get you your earnest money back, or we're going to get this buyer's earnest money. Like, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that. One, you're creating false expectations with your client. You have no control over the other client, whether they're going to sign that mutual release or not.
Which rolls us into number 3.
Yeah, that's good. All right, boom. We'll go into number 3 also. You can't force a seller to sign a release and or a buyer, quite frankly. So that's one of those things. Again, if it's not really in your scope of what you control, why would you... Don't try to be the expert on stuff you're not the expert on, Yeah. It happens sometimes. Even a seller is hard-headed and they're not going to release the earnest money, even though they should. Let's say it's a legit contract thing, appraised short, something like that, and the buyer agreed, I'll buy it as long as it appraises at this price. And then let's say it doesn't appraise out. That seller thinking that they're going to keep the buyer's earnest money, either the agent gave them the wrong information, or the buyer or the seller was just wrong and wasn't educated or whatever on the process. I mean, that's...
Or they just don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they're just mad.
Yep. Yeah. They're mad. It's 2 days, 2 days before closing. We were talking to somebody from another company. 2 days before closing, buyer's like, I'm done. What are you going to do,
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, too, even in the comments here, if you have a good tip or technique that you've been using to help you with buyer's remorse, I would love to know, because I think besides the next 2 that we're going to talk about, there's really not much more we can do. I mean, there's a lot of buyer's remorse right now. Another tip, a bonus tip I would say is, once your client gets an accepted purchase agreement on a property, you probably should not show them any other property unless they have the capacity to buy multiple properties without.
That's never a good thing.
Yeah.
And cut them off. If you send them houses, turn it off.
Yeah, stop doing it. Stop it. Because guess what they're going to do? They're going to keep looking, and they're going to find something better.
Yep.
And they're going to want to go see.
They're going to think grass is greener on the other side.
They're going to be telling their friends, I only had to pay, $5,000 over asking price, and their friend lives in Illinois, of course, and they're going to say, you paid more than what they're asking? That's dumb.
Because everybody's a realtor.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the market.
So that's crazy. So anyway, okay. So now what Nicole... Go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, okay, just like she said earlier, explaining how earnest money stuff works. Earnest money was one of the most important, and then one of the other most important sections that we run into problems is on the inspection paragraph. I am convinced that very few agents do a great job explaining the inspection process to their customers, because we are seeing way more deals fall apart during the inspection negotiating part, which of course it does happen. It is a place where they get to negotiate a little bit. I've seen buyers with crazy expectations, like the furnace is old, it works fine, but it's old, and they want $20,000, and it's like, what?
And I think the reason we're having some of that problem is, again, because we have a lot of people crossing state lines. Because in Illinois, things, license law and things are different over there. They use attorneys. Their inspections are different. Indiana law, especially if I know somebody's from Illinois and I know things are that much different, it doesn't matter any client. I always read the inspection section and describe what a defect is in Indiana. Set the expectations for what the seller has to do in the contract based on the contract. Don't be like, it's fine, just gloss, you get an inspection, whatever. You actually have to explain that section, because if you don't, when you get to inspection, they'll be like, here's the report, here's 30 pages, I want all that stuff fixed. And you're like, wait, whoa. You know what I mean? So it's one of those, having the better clause for inspections is what we have for number 2.
Yeah, I put have a better clause, but I mean, like, okay, so I was talking to I was talking to an agent before, and the agent said, well, Craig, it's my personal belief that any buyer should be able to get out of a contract within the first 10 days due to an inspection issue. And I said, well, first of all, I understand that you think that. I said, second of all, if you really believe that, then you need to, the purchase agreement needs to reflect that. I said, if you, and I also said, I also know that you did not read the purchase agreement, because that's not what the inspection paragraph states. Yep. That's not what you're advising your clients to sign and agree to. So you're not doing your job effectively. And they didn't like to hear that. However, they understood what I said, because then I followed up with, look, if you think that your buyer wants out, and if more importantly, if your buyer expects that they have the right to cancel the transaction based on an inspection result, that better be written in the contract like that. That, the buyer can cancel it in the first 10 days for any reason, or whatever you want to put in there. Talk to your managing broker again. I'm not giving advice like that. But if that's what they want to put in there, but I can also tell you this, I represent mostly sellers on most of my transactions. We're not taking a blanket out to the contract like that. We're not doing it. It's like, no, if you want, inspect it first then, and then make me an offer.
And I think that's the hard part about inspections, is that is the least thing where we do check boxes, right? Like our whole purchase agreement, almost every form we have is all check boxes. It's either yes or no, this way or that way. And then you have the further conditions paragraph and your inspection report. Those are the two areas where you're either going to be a really good agent or you're going to write stuff that you shouldn't be writing, right? And so that's kind of inspections, I think, is that area where if you're not experienced and you don't have kind of know what's going on, that's where you can really either set yourself up for greatness or set yourself up for disappointment. And your buyer is really what it comes down to, and the seller. But, I think to Craig's point, we used to see before it was a hard seller's market, like, the further conditions clause of, hey, if inspection isn't to buyer's approval, then you can get out of the contract. Earnest money's returned within X hours, stuff like that. That's writing a better clause for inspection. But will it be accepted by the seller? Who knows? You know what I mean? And so that's kind of, you have to be specific and say what you mean in an inspection. Yeah,
definitely. Definitely. Be clear. You shouldn't be using legalese on further conditions and stuff like that.
Nope.
If I see any whereas or any of that kind of nonsense, it always drives me nuts. It's like, well, hold on, we're not attorneys. Don't write it like that. It's just confusing. Okay. Last, our number one, and anyone who's been a fan of the show for a while knows we use that stupid word expectations all the time.
All the time.
But that's kind of what we do, guys. Our job is to we don't necessarily set expectations, but our job should be to help the buyer or the seller have reasonable expectations, I guess. If a buyer, a first-time home buyer, sometimes, and I know you've worked with customers like this, they think if they have an inspection that every little defect on there will get fixed by the seller at the seller's expense. They think that.
Yeah.
Some buyers think that. So if we don't educate them on the process, they're going to be, they're going to, eventually they're going to turn on the agent, because they're going to say, well, this process doesn't work the way it should. I'm out,
Yeah.
Or I'm getting another agent. The other agent's going to say, oh, you can't do that because of this. And they're going to be like, oh, well, my other agent didn't tell me that, so. My thing, I put set expectations early and often. Often would mean like not only when new things come up, set more expectations. Like you might be like, oh, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, hey, you're doing your inspection tomorrow. I just want to remind you, it's going to be about 3 hours. It's going to take forever. You're paying your inspector to find every nitpicky little tiny thing and all the major defects at the same time. So I've never ever, not even new construction, have I seen a house never have any defects. I've never seen it yet.
But just reminding them that this is normal. It's the process, trying to keep that emotion level instead of letting that emotion spike. Because emotions, I think a lot of times play a huge part in buyer's remorse. And that's part of our job, is to be that nucleus and be that person that doesn't jump on that emotional bandwagon, but brings that back onto the road instead of like going off, off-road, and we're going over these hills and oh my God, it's up and down and everything. Our job is to bring it back, to the asphalt road where you're driving. It's nice, clean, smooth sailing, versus like buying into that emotional thing, which is only going to make buyer's remorse worse.
Yeah. And here, I just thought of a phrase that I hear a lot from buyers, and I just connected the dot right now. This is happening live right now. I just connected the dot. But buyers will ask me all the time, like, well, hold on, Craig. Now, if they're not going to fix X, I can get out, right, and get my earnest money back. And usually, I'm always like, oh yeah, you can. That's a buyer's remorse early. That just lets me know right now. That's the seed of buyer's remorse that just got watered when I said, yep, you can get out. I just set the expectation that, yeah, you can get out, but it's not that that's not necessarily true, but that's not always true.
Yeah.
What if the thing that they want fixed is something that we would consider a minor and that's another thing. Agents should never be deciding what's major or minor defects. That's again, that used to be in our purchase agreements for all of us veterans that have been in the business a while.
Yeah. That
used to be on the contract. There used to be a whole list of things that were considered major defects and what were not considered major defects. There's a reason why that was all removed from the contract. It's because the realtors do not decide that. Yeah. It's not our job is to help facilitate the transaction. Now, sometimes in a seller's market, we might have to make the hard recommendation to our buyers saying, I wouldn't ask the seller this. You're up against 12 offers. It's very likely there's a backup offer. And if you ask for them to remove the pencil sharpener in the basement that's connected to the beam downstairs holding the I-beam up, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
there's always that one. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that old pencil sharpener. I love that thing. But if they don't remove that, Craig, I can get out, right? Well, yeah, or I can ask them to repair it. Yeah, you can, but if you ask them to do anything, that's a negotiation point. They could say, no, sorry, not doing it. Here's a mutual release. I'm accepting this other backup offer, that was offered cash that came in after you or whatever,
Well, and when they say stuff like that, normally I like to go back to, okay, well, is it a defect which is by Indiana? And then we go over, is it health or safety? Or is it going to depreciate the value of the home?
Appraisal things. You're not that. First of all, it's not an Indiana state law. So be careful. It's not that you're talking the appraisal guidelines, whether it has to be safe, serviceable.
It's in the inspection. It says that.
But
in purchase agreement.
That's what the purchase agreement states are
examples the definition of Indiana.
Examples of things that could be used. It's not the definition in the state of Indiana.
You
got to remember. No. IAR's attorneys wrote the purchase agreement,
exactly.
not the state of Indiana or, the real estate commission or nothing like that. The, IAR's attorneys do that, but it's not a state.
Okay, it's the state paperwork we use in this state.
No,
would you agree?
I was just saying it's not an Indiana state law, and you said it's the definition in the state of Indiana. No, it's a definition we came up with.
It's
not
the definition
the state
in our
of Indiana,
paperwork,
right? But it's not. Right. That's fine.
Okay.
We're splitting hairs, but I'm just saying from a legal, it's not legal, what we're saying. If a buyer writes an offer on a napkin and signs it, we have to present it.
I remind them what the definition is in the purchase agreement and what it states in there, that this is what is considered what the seller would have to fix.
And hence,
does
that's
it fall
perfect.
within that?
And that's perfect. If you're going over that part of the inspection, that's good.
Yep. But that's what I mean. If
I'm on board
they're
with that.
saying, can I not, can I get out if we fix it? Well, does it fall within the guideline of this, And so that's what we do. So.
Well, I'm a stickler for the rules. And my whole point was just insinuating that, that the definition on the inspection paragraph is approved by the state of Indiana or something like that. That's all I was saying is it's not necessarily legally binding. And, until everyone signs it, I guess it is legally binding.
That's what the judge goes, they're going to look at the contract.
The judge
that's what's
does
in
look
the
at
contract.
Yep.
And that's what it says.
The judge looks at what the buyer and seller signed. Yep, that's true.
Yep. And
that
that's
is true.
what the definition is in the buyer's contract. So that's what I was saying. Anywho.
I was silently rolling my eyes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but anyway, that's the show. Buyer's remorse is bad. Help us out. Help you out. Let's try to mitigate buyer's remorse a little bit. If you have any other good tips, I would love to hear them. That's it. I mean, it's tough right now because there's so much competition. Buyers feel impulsively. They write higher offers.
Yeah, and I think as we go and they have buyer's remorse, and let's say they get out of a contract for whatever reason, and they go again, then it's almost like the expectation is set that they can get out again, right? And then you're in this huge vicious cycle of like, well, I got out of it because of this last time, so why can't I do this? And it's just, you kind of go back and forth. So buyer's remorse.
I would argue
not fun right now.
If you have the same client that's gotten out of, I'll say 3, But if they've gotten out of 3 transactions and then they're a first-time buyer, I will almost bet 90% of the time it's the agent.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but I would say that.
Yep.
As long as there was no like legit like appraisal issue or you know, legit things that would kill a deal, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah.
I think a lot of our job is just people skills and reading people and doing that kind of stuff. And if you start to hear those little seeds, like Craig was talking about the buyer's remorse, you need to be blunt with them. Do you want this house or not? Like, because you do not want to sign a legally binding contract if you do not want it and you're not sure. Like, I'm not going to put pressure on any buyer to do that because it's a waste of my time and it's a waste of their time and the sellers and the other agent's time. Like, there's just no reason to do it. And it's a waste of money for everybody, to be quite frank. So it's better to move on to a different house. There's more inventory now than there was. That's saying a lot right now. But it's better to just move on and actually find a house for them versus being under contract and wasting everybody's time and your frustrations and everything of you know, doing a deal that should have probably never been put together in the first place.
That's right.
So
that's it.
That's all we got. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you. I'm trying to convince Craig to do our other idea. We have some really good ideas, like Nicole and Craig in the streets. Like, we're going to the Crown Point Square, talking about stuff, but he's got to be all like, he has to have a plan for that, where I'm more like spontaneous. Let's just go do it. Look at his face.
How'd that escape room work out for you guys? You're spontaneous.
That wasn't spontaneous. That was planned. So that's how that worked out.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
They showed up late and got kicked out.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's what happened.
We can't leave the audience hanging like that. You know?
Can't we?
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
Well,
but okay.
It's close, and then you got in a fight with them.
Not okay. That's not what happened.
She's got an attitude, you guys. As soon as this camera goes off, one time she hit me with one of the mic stands. I mean, she is abusive.
Guys.
If I blink twice, I need someone to call the authorities.
Guys, we know he deserved it, right? I mean, come on.
I didn't mean to. No one has to call anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Anyway, thanks. Let's see. Yeah, what else do we got to tell everyone? No, that's it.
I
don't know.
That's it, I think.
Right.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a good one.
We are looking. We can have people sponsor the show now. We got to talk to Claire. We got to finish that up. Yeah, we are, and we'll do shows based on what you want us to do a show on.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as we want to, and then I'll do it. If not, I won't do it. So whatever.
Whatever. Bye, guys.
All right, thanks, everyone.